Hi, I'm Norah O'Donnell, and this is Person to Person. Our guest is tennis superstar and entrepreneur Serena Williams.
The greatest of all time.
She stopped playing competitive tennis just before her 41st birthday, with the most Grand Slam wins of any American in open-era history, winning 23 Grand Slam singles over her nearly three-decade career. Williams dazzled on the court in her signature outfits and off the court as a businesswoman, owning a clothing line, jewelry line, and her own venture capital firm.
I know how debilitating a migraine can be.
She's now a paid spokesperson for Ubrelvy, which treats migraines in adults. Williams has been outspoken about her own battle with the condition, and she joins us from her home in Florida to highlight the issue.
Serena Williams, thank you for joining us on Person to Person. How are you?
Thanks for having me, first of all. I'm good. I'm really good. I'm just really good.
Good. Well, it looks beautiful there in Florida. Last time I saw you, you were with Gail King on the farm. How are the animals? Any new animals on the farm?
Yeah, Florida's been really good. The weather's always so nice here. I just feel so grateful for that. Yeah, no new animals. I don't think Alexis can handle any more animals because I only do dogs. So, yeah, no new ones as of yet.
Well, it has been 5 months since you played at the U.S. Open. Do you miss playing tennis?
Has it been?
Yeah.
Wow. Actually, I do. I definitely do. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's been that long. But yeah, I miss playing. I've been doing it my entire life, so I think it'll be something I will forever always miss.
I know you don't like the word retired, but since it has been almost half a year since the U.S. Open, how are you feeling about that word now?
I didn't retire. I evolved. I think there's a huge difference. I think there's a lot of people that, whether they're CEOs of a big company and they leave, or they retire to go to another company, they're still working, and I'm doing the same thing. I feel like I'm not retired. I'm not laying around and really enjoying the fruits of my labor, but I feel like, I just kind of am doing more things and in business and, just so many different things. And so it's like an evolution. And I just feel like I like that word better. I think I'm allergic to the retirement word. You're never going to get me to say that.
Well, that's good, because I actually think the evolution word is better. And I agree with you. And you've had such a physically demanding career. And now I feel like you have a really challenging business career. You're doing so much. Sort of explain to people who don't know all the different things you're involved in.
Yeah, my tennis career was incredibly physical, as you know, and it was really incredibly mental. And now, through the evolution, just doing everything I do in business, it is, I think the physical and mental of tennis completely prepared me for what I'm doing in business. So I'm running S Ventures, Serena Ventures. It's a venture company that I've been investing for over 10 years, actually. So a lot of people don't know that. I was a low-key angel investor, and then eventually I did a fund, and we invest in women and women of color, and we also make sure we have diversity in a lot of the companies that we invest in. I think that's super important. That's kind of one of our ethos that we like to do. Also, I run a fashion company still, so, there's a lot of exciting things with that. And then I just launched a brand called Will Perform, which was exciting to do as well. So there's a lot of stuff happening in the Serena Williams camp. And, I continue to do and to be a part of some really amazing, exciting work and things of just increasing knowledge for so many platforms.
How does that translate? Because you've talked about being such a perfectionist at the sport of tennis. How does it translate with business? And how do you decide what to invest in? Because I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that comes across your desk.
Yeah, I think it translates. It's an interesting way, because as a perfectionist, like in tennis, if I made a mistake, I would just go nuts, which Yikes, yeah, that was me. But that's just what I wanted to always be the best. And I think it's the same thing that I do in business. It's like, I still want to do the best, but it's different. You can't have that perfectionist attitude because I also invest in early stage companies. So it's super important to understand that we invest so early that not 100% will make of them and will make it. And it's still like, okay, I'm like, okay, yeah, I understand that 100% won't make it, but how do I get to 100% to make it? And that's the Serena in me. Yeah, that's the Serena in me coming out. But I understand that's just really not realistic. But I always try to, when I'm investing in companies, I always try to set myself up to think, okay, how do I make the best investment to make this come out, to make us winners? And so we really do tons of due diligence, and we do tons of just looking at companies to make sure how we can support it and how we can make it be the best company. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot of fun, you know? It's something that I've always enjoyed, and it's really fun.
Mm-hmm. So, and given that, I mean, are you able to relax at all? I mean, I've read and listened to many of the interviews you've given, and you say you still have trouble relaxing.
Yeah, I haven't yet. I haven't figured out the formula to relax. I feel like I'm getting better at it in terms of constructing my day to have time off. But then, of course, the time off goes to my daughter, and that's never super easy. But at least I'm getting that. This morning I did sit down for like an hour and did nothing. Actually, I turned on the TV and I started watching a movie, which is something I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's huge for me. That was like a really big win for me. But yeah, so I'm like, I'm slowly, ever so slowly, super baby steps, figuring out a way to relax.
That's wonderful. And how is Olympia doing? Is she playing tennis?
Olympia's doing good. She doesn't actually like to play tennis too much. So that's a little disappointing for me, but she's actually really good at it. So we are trying to figure out a way to get her to play a little bit.
And I know you told Gail that Olympia's been pressuring for a sibling. Maybe she would want to play tennis more if she had a sibling.
Right? Who knows, though?
I know with my two girls, I have them play tennis and they play golf, and their golf instructor says that with girls, it's social, at least for golf. They need a teammate or a playmate, and then they're more likely to do it.
Yeah, you know, Olympia loves being social, and it's interesting because I don't think growing up playing tennis, I don't think I loved being social, but looking back, I was always with my sisters. So obviously it was super social. So that makes sense that, you know, that girls like to have that social sport, and it's a social aspect of that. I think it's actually super, super important. And she loves being around friends. She loves going to school, you know, so it's, I think that's an interesting point. I definitely, maybe I can push her into tennis by getting other kids to have like a group lesson. I think that's what I'm going to do. You just gave me a nice clue, because I really want her to play at least a little bit, because she's actually really good at it.
Yeah. Serena, I don't think you're going to have any trouble arranging that play group.
Yeah. I'll do it though and see.
Yeah.
Hopefully I won't have any trouble.
All right. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk to Serena about her lifelong battle with migraines. And we're back with Serena Williams. And Serena, I know something you've talked about that surprised a lot of people is your lifelong battle with migraines. You played tennis through migraines?
Yeah, migraine has actually affected me for a very long time. I remember when I was younger, as a teenager, I didn't realize that I was having migraine. I just thought that I would always say, I have a headache, I have a headache, I have a headache. But as I got older, I understood that I was suffering from migraine, and it was very difficult. Imagine losing a match because you have a migraine. But migraines are very, very difficult to deal with, and they're very painful, and sometimes you have to perform and you have to be able to go out there, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to have to do that every day and just to kind of just put your pain in the back of your mind and just kind of deal with it. And, you know, they're very serious, problems. So that's one of the reasons why I partnered with AbbVie. I wanted to raise awareness for the underrepresentation of migraine.
And when you had migraines and you told people you were suffering from these debilitating headaches, what was the response you got?
Well, a lot of people couldn't believe that I wanted to talk about my migraine, right? Because I feel like for some reason it's like a stigma to talk about it. And then so many people came in and were like, I suffer from migraine. And I was like, I didn't know that. And it was such good feedback to listen and to learn how many people actually suffer from migraine that don't really talk about it. I think it's so important to, start that conversation because there are things that you can do to help. And I feel like suffering in silence is something that I've done for so many years. And I tell you, it's not fun showing at Wimbledon and court one and like the third round and, you have a migraine, but you still have to perform because no one in the crowd and no one that's watching on TV understands anything, but this is a player, she's going to play and she has to win. So it's like you have to continue to perform no matter what.
So there have been tournaments where you were suffering a migraine.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's been many times because it's been happening for so many years, but and obviously not all the time. I think some of the adrenaline that would happen to me just getting ready for the match, whether I was suffering from a backache, a knee ache, or a migraine, the adrenaline would just kind of get me through it.
Yeah. Okay, Serena, this adds a new level to the greatest of all time, that you achieved all that you did while suffering from migraines. Because as you know, I'm sure, and people have told you, that for many people that suffer with migraines, it's like get under the covers and stay in bed all day.
Yeah, I agree. And for me, it was important for me to talk about it, and I couldn't necessarily go under the covers and just avoid lights. And, it's like I said, to pull out because you have migraine, even though they're so intense, a lot of people don't really understand that, and that's why I thought it was really important to just tell my story without realizing everything that would come back from it.
I know you are a paid spokesperson for a drug. What was it like to find a solution that worked for you?
It was great to find a solution. It took me years to arrive, first of all, at a migraine diagnosis, but I'm also happy to say that after the journey, I was able, with the help of my doctor, who actually recommended Ubrelvy for me, I was able to work with that and have a prescription that could treat my migraine attacks in adults, as an adult. Like when I was younger, I never had that opportunity. The most common side effect in the clinical trials were actually nausea, tiredness, and certain medications, of course, can't be taken with it.
So I know there's a huge disparity when it comes to migraines, but I was actually stunned when we looked into the numbers. Only 47% of Black people with symptoms are diagnosed with migraines compared to 70% of white people with the same symptoms. What does that tell us about how our healthcare system treats people of color?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I think a lot of the subject that I've talked about in the past few years is how people of color are treated different in healthcare and just raising awareness for that. And I didn't even know that disparity in migraine until I started learning more about it. And I think one of the symptoms is just, first of all, black people and people of color often don't feel comfortable talking about pain, or they just do suffer in silence or don't mention it. And at the same time, unfortunately, some doctors feel like pain level in certain people doesn't count as much as it does in other people. And so, that is shocking and very sad to hear, but it's really about just raising awareness, right? And just really talking about it and just having uncomfortable conversations and just making them comfortable and just talking about things that you're suffering from and not feeling bad about it, because there's absolutely nothing to feel bad about, especially except for when you're having a migraine attack. That's the only time you should feel bad about it, because it can be very painful. But otherwise, it's just like someone would say, my back hurts. It's literally the same thing in terms of having the comfortability to talk about it.
Right, and be able to ask for help, which is so incredibly important. When we come back, I want to talk about maternal fetal health for women, and also about Black History Month when we come back. And we're back with Serena Williams. And Serena, you've talked about this before, that you nearly died after giving birth to Olympia. And you're sharing that story, I think, has raised so much awareness about the disparity in maternal health for Black women. Have you seen any positive changes since then?
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen a ton of changes. It's interesting. I shared my story not expecting to get that much feedback. I literally was just sharing my story. I think everyone has a birth story, right? But my story was my story. And then so many people started to talk about how, unfortunately, Black moms don't get the same care. And I learned that there's colleges, or I don't know if there still are, I really hope not, that was telling some of their future doctors that this is how Latina moms work, this is how Black moms work, this is how white moms are. Like the Black moms don't need a lot of care, the Latina moms, they don't need a lot of care. And that was really shocking. And I thought that that's why this is happening, because the teachers that are teaching this are telling their students that, you know, Black women don't need care as mom, and that they can handle a lot more pain. So I think it's important for me, just authentically telling my story got so many people to talk about the conversation, and in a real authentic way, right? Because that's what we want to have, is these authentic conversations.
Well, it's a very authentic conversation, and it's an incredibly important topic. I feel so passionately about it, too. This should not be a problem. Women should be able to get the health care.
It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you're a mom, it should be the happiest time of your life, right? And it should be the most exciting time to do exciting things and to be with your child. And also, it's the most scary time. I know for me, it was very frightening. I didn't know what to expect. And you don't really know. You just kind of push it in the back of your mind, and then all of a sudden you're there and you're like, oh my gosh. But yeah, so it should also be a happy time. So for that to be such an issue and such a disparity, is talk about the word unfair.
Yes, unfair is exactly right. But I do think the awareness about it is incredibly important, and there has been new awareness about it, not only because of what you have done, but others in the medical community and the press as well, I hope, have brought new attention to it. February is Black History Month. You have done so much to inspire so many people in sports, athletes. When you look at the game of tennis and the people that you've inspired too, how does that make you feel?
You know, it makes me feel great. I just played tennis to be the best that I could be, and then I played tennis to be the best in the world, and to be number one. And, you know, through that, without realizing it, you inspire people. And then it feels good to know that you can inspire people, and also feels a little humbling, like, wow, I inspired you. That's kind of cool, because at the end of the day, I just feel like I'm just myself. And so it's really incredible to have been put and given such a great talent to be able to be an inspiration as well. Mm-hmm.
Well, that T-shirt that your husband wore that said the greatest female athlete of all time with the female crossed out, after he was pictured with that in the stands, I went and bought that shirt too. Because I just think that not only to wear it, but wear it proudly, but for my daughters to see too.
They don't do that on the opposite side, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know any guy who won a Grand Slam when they were 9 weeks pregnant. Like you, Serena Williams?
Yeah, that was a little crazy, though. I don't know. I don't know how that happened.
But you knew you were pregnant, right? You knew you were pregnant.
I did. And it was crazy because I couldn't play long points. So if you go back and look at it, all my points are like 5, 6 balls. And if they were longer than that, I would lose the next point. But nobody picked up on it, so I was happy.
Well, it's been incredible to watch. All right, so our final question, we do ask people on person to person, and this seems like a ridiculous question to ask Serena Williams, but what is your superpower?
My superpower? I read people well. I think that's my superpower. Yeah.
Wow.
Can't hide it from me.
Wow, that's a good superpower. That translates on the court and off, no doubt. Serena Williams, always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Always good to talk to you as well.